I just realized the mic wasn't on and the music is on. Get this off. What's going on, boys? Don't play the intro again. Play it again. Much better. Much better. Welcome back to another stream here on RBTV. It's been a week. It's been a long week. I can tell y'all that for free. But welcome back to another episode of the Robbie Basel Show here on RBTV, a special Thursday night edition. I'm your host, Robbie Basel. So happy to have you guys all here for the ride. And if you can tell by what jersey I'm wearing today, it's one of my personal favorite episodes. And over the years, it's been one of your guys' favorite videos of the year. It's the Premier League prediction video, which means a lot of BS is going to be said on the mic. I'm going to look like a clown. I'm going to destroy Tottenham because that's what we do on this stream. Type 1 if you say yes. Type 2 if you believe no. And type 3 if you don't know who Tottenham is. But what are we doing? It's the prediction stream. I know Dylan's not here. GGFs for Dylan. He was not here this year, but he was here the last 2 years doing this stream. Doing the video, at least, when we did videos still on this channel. But big ups to Dylan. He's an excellent dude. But I decided this year, just because of how last minute the stream is to begin with, that I will only be the one doing the predictions this year. But trust me, in the next couple of months, you will start seeing more people other than me on this channel, which is good. Because, honestly, I feel y'all with the boredom of just hearing one person every freaking week. And I feel y'all for real. So, but tonight, or if you are my viewers from around other parts of the world in the morning, I honestly have no idea at this point. Because if you look, I looked at the stats yesterday, and, we have viewers from 4 different continents. That's cool shit. Like, I love that. Almost every continent in the world represented. Big ups to you guys. And big ups to the people who subscribed recently. We got a couple new subs. We might shout them out at the end of the stream. Actually, no, they are on hidden, so we will not be able to shout out. But yeah, we're almost up to 70 subscribers, which is about double of what we were at before the summer started. And before we go farther in today's video, I'm just kidding. We don't have a sponsor. But this is the last stream that I'll be doing in the office. We're going back to Iona. I actually go back to school on Sunday, which is kind of outrageous. For my senior year. So we'll be going back to the bedroom setup. So the setup's going to be hella scuffed. But yeah, we'll still do games there. We actually aren't doing games for week 1 of the Premier League because the season starts tomorrow. I feel terrible about that. So next week, I have a consolation prize for you guys. But you guys don't get to hear about it until Tuesday, which is really unfortunate because I will confirm the schedule on Tuesday. But what are we doing now? For the last stream in the house, just like we've done every other year, over the last 2 years, we are doing the Premier League prediction. So how is it going to work? I'm going to go over each team where I have them from 20 to 1. And we have a special graphics thing this year. So you guys will see all of the predictions around all the parts of your screen. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait. If it screws up, that's unfortunate. But yeah, we'll go over every team. We'll go over some of the moves they make. We also have, of course, our yearly tradition of absolutely screwing up the signing and the good transfer of the year and the bad transfer of the year. We also have underrated signing of the season, which I think this player is underrated because of the position he plays in. But you'll see who that is in a minute. So, without further ado, I've been talking about not Premier League stuff for too long. Let's begin. And our first team on the board, who will be finishing in 20th? It works. It's Leeds United. Now, Leeds are a very weird one. Coming up from the championship, if you look at Leeds, I'm not really convinced by Leeds. I mean, they've made, their biggest sign? Lucas Nemecha. I mean, they lost Max Weber. They signed Gudmundsson, Sean Longstaff, I guess. Like, these guys aren't they ain't nice like that. So essentially what I'm saying here is Leeds United are that big team that did really well the championship, but then are going to fall back down right away. Kind of like how Burnley was a couple of years ago, where they were scoring goals, doing everything right, and get themselves into the Premier League. But as what usually happens, sometimes those teams fall back down right away. And unfortunately, I think that's what's going to happen to Leeds United. They do have a lot of money. I don't even know if they spent a lot of money, which is like the annoying part, because they could have spent a lot more than what they have right now. Because if you don't know, Leeds are, I believe, are like partially owned by Red Bull. And they are probably the team that are coming from the championship that have the most money. They really haven't used it at all so far. So I'm a little disappointed in the moves Leeds have done, but there's still time in the window. There's about 17 days left. I'm going to expect Leeds to make a move or two. We'll see how Leeds do in their opening match of the season, which I believe is on Monday against Everton, which is actually a very good first week for them. And the reason I'm saying it's a good one is because Everton are not, your Chelsea, Liverpool, Spurs, City, Arsenal, United that you would beat up on Leeds 6-0. It is a semi-winnable match. If you look at what's going on, it's at Leeds as well, so it's a very winnable Week 1 match for Leeds United, but I don't expect anything from them. And by the way, in the other 2 years I've done this, I predicted 20th and 19th correctly. So who do I have 19th then? Who is getting the unfortunate nod at 19? Burnley. I have Burnley going down again. Now, if they had James Trafford, I had them being safe. But when you have questions at goalkeeper, especially in the Prem, you are doomed to fail. We've seen this with big teams. We've seen this with small teams. And we've seen it with like a bunch of other teams in the middle that were supposed to be good, but with goalkeeping problems, it holds them back. This is the big team I have it being this year. That is James Trafford-less Burnley. Moves from them, none of them really blow me away. Didn't they sign Kyle Walker for free? Okay. They got Leslie Ukachukwu, who I know is kind of good. Armando Broja, also from Chelsea, he's kind of good. Dubravka, I believe, is replacing Trafford, but that isn't Dubravka's the goalkeeper, right? Hold on. I'm just making sure I'm thinking of the right person here, Chad. Yeah, Martin Dubravka is a goalkeeper. Yeah, no, I'm not going crazy. I totally remember Martin Dubravka on Newcastle. But yeah, they signed Dubravka to be the replacement for Trafford. That's not a Premier League type goalkeeper to me at a level that he would even need to be at to try and keep this Burnley side up. They're going to be intriguing. I have a feeling they will play a lot of close games, but they're not going to get blown out. That's like the one thing you like about Burnley is that they'll never get blown out, like get the doors blown off them, but yeah, it ain't gonna be pretty from the boys from Burnley. I'm not very high on them whatsoever. This team I was high on, the team I'm at 18th, but they sold their best player. And because of this, let me scroll down to my third relegation team. And they sold him to Dortmund, but they brought in my boy Granit Xhaka. And this is why they're 18th. It's Sunderland. And I feel bad for Sunderland because I really like their team. They are the team that was the last team in from the championship. Remember, they won that crazy promotion playoff just a couple of months ago. And they've actually have had a lot of decent moves. Mark Guiu from Chelsea, you get to finally see if Guyu's a competent player. They lost Job, which is really unfortunate. But they signed a lot of guys from high-level teams, players from Roma, Strasbourg, which is actually fairly respectable. They got a player from Union Saint-Gilloise in Belgium. Simon Adringa from Brighton's not terrible. And the big one is Granit Xhaka, the leadership type of player to play in the six and try and control the midfield a little bit. Kind of like João Palhinha will be with Tottenham. We'll speak more about João Palhinha later. This is a team that could finish. If they had Job, I had them finishing 16th or 17th. Because there's a lot of teams in the midfield of the Prem that could be absolutely shambolic and everything could go wrong. It's a very weird spot to be in for a lot of teams at the bottom. because there's not one definitive you suck, you deserve to get relegated like a Sheffield United was 2 years ago. There's not a team, or fairly recently, a Sheffield United. Who was it last year? What I'm trying to say is that there's no definitive team to go down. There will be a battle at the bottom, I believe, but I think it's easy to say based on quality of a team that the three teams that come up will go back down again. And I hate to say that because all three of these teams can compete. It's just, do they have enough Premier League level players to compete week in, week out with those teams in the bottom half? And I just don't believe either of the three have enough. A couple of them are close. It could change a lot over the next couple of weeks, but I think it's very easy to say that these will be the three teams that go down. It is Leeds, then Burnley, and unfortunately Sunderland. This team I have barely surviving, and it's Wolverhampton Wanderers. Now, Wolves last year were not very good. They were very underwhelming. We know that. And they then proceeded to lose Rayan Ayet-Nouri. They lost Matthias Cunha, but they brought in Jorgen Strand Larsen, who I'm very intrigued about. I like Jorgen Strand Larsen. He's a very decent player. But they haven't done a lot. They signed John Arias from Fluminense, a very decent player who had a solid Club World Cup, but they haven't done a lot. They're going to be a team that's going to maybe make a lot of moves on deadline day, and I just don't think that's going to be enough for Wolves they just don't have enough for me to confidently say, yes, this team will stay up. It's not easy to say that for Wolves right now. They're going to be the team that I have that's going to be sweating it out pretty much from January on. I think it's going to be Wolverhampton Wanderers. They're a good team. Don't get me wrong. But the fact that they're even in this spot, and a couple of years ago, I could have said they could be competing for European spots. It's unbelievable. But Wolves, they're not in a great situation. They haven't done a lot in terms of transfers. I'm intrigued to see what they do over the next couple of weeks. But right now, I'll put it simple. It hasn't been enough, which is really unfortunate for a team, like I said, a team like them, a team that, easily could have, at the end of the day, finished 8th or 9th and been in close to a European position. Next up, we have the team that is I have going 16th. So far, once again, to reiterate, I have Leeds bottom, then Burnley, Sunderland, and then Wolves. And then the next team I have should be Brentford. Now, this is another one that I'm not comfortable with. Because when you make the order for one of these videos or streams this year, I got Brentford really wrong last year. And I have a feeling I'm going to do it again. I like Kelleher in goal. I think he's going to be excellent. Love the signing of Jordan Henderson. I think Michael Coyote from Fiorentina is amazing. It's not the team I thought that would get him. The worry is that you lose Norgard, so you lose the consistency in midfield, even though you replace him with Jordan Henderson. But then again, Jordan Henderson hasn't been very good in the last couple of years. You lose Brian Mbeumo. I guess you replace him with Coyote. You lose Ben Mee. I mean, they've lost a chunk, and they've gotten a little better, but not really. And there's a couple teams around this area that I believe I'm more confident in. Brentford, I think, is the team that I'm going to underrate. I could underrate a lot. They're going to be a team that doesn't concede but doesn't score. They're going to be one of those teams. Coyote, I just don't know about him being as like a consistent player in the Premier League yet. But this is actually a very important season for Brentford, because if they could stay in the Prem again, which I think they probably will, getting a guy from Fiorentina like Coyote where he can develop, I think this could be that transfer is actually depends a lot about how this season goes. Because if you want to have resale value for a guy like Michael Coyote, you have to stay in the Prem multiple years with Coyote on your team. So the fact that Brentford are in this spot, it's not great. This is the team that I think could maybe surprise, but it's good to determine on like they're gonna have to get like 60 draws, it feels like, to really make a move on one of the teams in the Prem because they've lost a chunk. Like I said, they lost a chunk. They've somewhat replaced it, but I just don't think it's enough to consistently push for 11th, 12th, kind of where they were. Last year they finished 10th, but they lost their key player in Mbeumo to Manchester United. They lost Christian Norgard, who I believe is on Arsenal, and they replaced him with Jordan Henderson from Ajax. They got a goalkeeper in Kelleher. We'll see how he will be in a starting role consistently. And as I mentioned, Michael Coyote. They're another team that should have done more with what they have. Next up, with wherever we are. Next team, West Ham, 15th. They pissed me off last year. We're going to rant about West Ham because last year I was high on West Ham United. If you remember, I thought they could be great. They got Nicholas Füllkrug. I love Nicholas Füllkrug. He then gets hurt and then hurt again. And then we barely saw him on the field at all. It annoyed me. Last year, I had a West Ham finishing 9th. This year, I had them finishing 15th. I mean, at this rate, I don't know. Like, they're, again, another team that's really weird. Remember, a few years ago, they won the Conference League. A few years ago. They lost Mohamed Kudus, which is, I think, very big. Evan Ferguson's loan ended. They brought in Todibo, which I don't know how the hell they did that by bringing in Todibo. But it's a lot of they cleaned a lot of house out, which is great. Moving players like Ings, Kufal, Fabianski, all players who were there for a while. They released them all. The big move for them is Callum Wilson. Can he be at a high enough level to score goals consistently? They don't have a goal scorer. They lose Mohamed Kudus. They lost the former big-time goal scorer, Mikel Antonio. They're going to have to rely a lot on Callum Wilson, Nicholas Füllkrug. I'm totally forgetting someone. And the rest of that team. And I'm just not convinced that they have enough to push for a big-time Premier League spot. So because of that, and because West Ham, I'm not confident in them. So for that reason, I'm going to have these boys in a crazy 15. Though I think they can still be really good. I'll be honest with y'all. Like, they could be a team that's, again, another one of those teams that can surprise many, but they're going to need to have a big year out of a guy like Callum Wilson. I'm just not convinced that they can do something like that. The next team on the board. Now, I wanted to put this team higher because they're playing in a new stadium. And they are a squad in the past that has been focused on surviving. And now they might be turning a corner. I don't know what the hell you would use, a term you'd use for this team at this point, because they survived for so long. They lost a ton of players. But my God, are they intriguing. Everton, 14th. Why do I say they're intriguing? They have gone with the strategy of signing big name players guys who used to be good, but now kind of are meh. But they're from big teams. Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, who was my flop of the season last year, and that was a very good shout for flop of the season up until the Club World Cup happened. But Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, I didn't like him. It didn't make sense. He goes from Chelsea, where he won't play, to where he'll start every single week for Everton, I believe. And for some reason, they loaned in Jack Grealish, which is like, okay, Everton and Jack Grealish. I don't know if that's going to work, we're going to find out. I mean, the Premier League, I mean, they play on Monday against Leeds. I'm hoping Grealish starts against Leeds, because that'll be really weird. It'd be like, yes, Jack Grealish against Leeds. That makes perfect sense. They're a team that, like I said, they were surviving. They were about 16th or 17th after they were a team that spent, I think it was like sixth most money in the Premier League, but still were getting 16th and 17th, which is unbelievable. They didn't. I mean, they lost to Corey. They released to Corey. Wow, that's a fall off. I used to love Abdoulaye Doucouré. But they lost a little bit. They were able to gain back some with Dewsbury, Hall, and Grealish. They're not going to be great. They're not going to be spectacular, but I feel like they'll still be able to compete. I'm going to have Everton 14th, a safe 14th position. I think that's a very fair spot for a team like Everton. They're always going to be down there, but I think they're going to be a little bit better than what I've predicted in the past. Also, last year they actually weren't like completely atrocious, which is good. So it makes the pick. Last year they were 13th. This year I think they're going to be 14th, because Manchester United I don't have finishing 15th. They're Tottenham 17th. But yeah, just one spot down. They were behind the next tier of teams anyway. And the team I have next was only two spots ahead of them from last year. And that is Fulham, I believe, is my next team up. That's not the right screen. The next team is Fulham at 13th. So last year I had Fulham finishing. Where did I have Fulham finishing? Just trying to load my notes. Last year, I had Fulham projected in 14th. They finished 11th. This year, I have them 13th. We'll see where they finish. Out of the teams so far, the one I got the most, I actually have Wolves in the same spot that I picked them in for last year, and they finished 16th. Like last year, the predictions, I was not terrible. Like I got the Southampton pick easily correct. Ipswich and Leicester, I had them all being relegated, I believe, in the order they were relegated. But I didn't expect, the Manchester United's Tottenham 17th. I don't know what the hell that was. To keep the normalcy, Fulham 13th. They're going to be annoying as hell to play against. But their transfers, they've signed one player. And it's Benjamin Lecomte, who I've never heard of before. The only players they really they released Willian. They haven't really done anything. Matt Dibley-Diaz, the New Zealander, the Kiwi, who's now on Chesterfield. Carlos Vinicius, who used to be good. If you remember, he was that guy who played against when Tottenham played that what was it, the 8th tier team in the FA Cup, and he scored like a hat trick against them. Now he's fallen off and he's got released from Fulham. Fulham, I love Jedi Robinson at left back, who will be at with the U.S. men's national team, ideally at the World Cup next year. I like their fluidity in the midfield. They didn't really lose anything. I like their squad from last year. I think they need more attacking players. I think that was their downfall from last year, was that they didn't. How many goals did they score last year? Let's see. Fulham, they scored 54. But they still scored less than Tottenham. They scored the same amount of goals as Wolves, who finished 16th. But they still found ways to outscore some of the other teams. Fulham had problems at some points with their attack. Their defense wasn't great at points last year. They conceded 54 goals, which was, I believe, 14th overall in the Premier League, which isn't very good. But then again, they conceded less goals than Brighton, and they conceded less goals than the team that was in front of them in Brentford. The reason was they couldn't outscore the other team that was in front of them in Brentford. Last year, Brentford could score goals with guys like Mbeumo. They won't have that. Fulham, I think, will hold their own against a lot of teams. They won't score a lot. A lot of their games won't be pretty, but damn it, they're going to be interesting to watch. I'm going to have Fulham in 13th, or wherever the hell they are. Next team Click it. Bournemouth, 12. Last year they finished 9th. The issue with Bournemouth, their main problem, if we really look at Bournemouth, is they lost a lot in defense. They did. They lost Elos Kirkes to Liverpool. They lost Kepa Arrizabalaga, who had his loan end and then went to Arsenal. They lost I believe, their best defender in Dean Howson, who went to Real Madrid. And they replaced these players with the signings of Daniel Jebison from Preston, Georgi Petrovic from Chelsea, which I think is a solid get to replace Kepa to continue the Chelsea theme, and then Bafode Diakite from Lille, who I don't know a lot about. I heard Diakite's all right. And then they signed a guy named Eli Junior Krupi from Lorient in France. They haven't done a lot. They're going to fall off a little bit. They had a really good start, but really fell off at the end. I mean, remember teams like West Ham, or last year was really Bournemouth, were off to those really good starts, but fell off at the end because they ran out of steam. I mean, hell, Bournemouth were busy going out and beating Arsenal because of a William Saliba red card, but now lost a lot of talented players and haven't been able to replace all of them yet. It's going to be a very tense, I think, first couple of weeks for Bournemouth because I honestly don't have no idea how good they're going to be. They're going to be intriguing because they lose, like I said, they lost Kirkes, Kepa. They went out and lost Dean Howson. How do they replace those players? Because they really haven't done so far. That's my big problem with Bournemouth right now. They haven't done a lot or truly enough to go out and say, yes, we replaced our star players with decent Premier League level signings. They haven't done that yet. They need to wake up because 17 days left till deadline day, and they really haven't done a lot so far. So it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks, but I think Bournemouth could be one of those teams that get off to a slow start but battle back in the end. So I'm going to have Bournemouth going out there, just missing out on top half. I'm going to have them in 12th. Finishing 11th, we're going to go with the team of the first big what the hell, Newcastle. Now, you're probably asking yourselves, Robbie, what is wrong with you? Is this the team that you were talking about that could be good, bad, or indifferent? The reason I have Newcastle United this low is because we have no idea who is playing for the team. Let me explain. Let's do an exercise together, viewers. Imagine you are Newcastle. You have a ton of talented players. Alexander Isak, Bruno Guimaraes. They have Sean Longstaff. They were able to have one of the best defenses in England with players like Dan Burn in your... Hold on, chat. We're back. Yes? Hooray! W's in chat. We're back. I don't know what the hell that was. But yeah, that's one thing that won't happen. That's one thing that won't happen when I'm at school is these stupid disconnects. Because I only got new Wi-Fi. But we just got new Wi-Fi at the house as well. And this BS is happening. Let's go back to Newcastle. You are a team that could go out and beat Man City. Recently, you were a team that was in the Champions League. They then proceed to, lose a couple of key players. And by a couple, I mean, they didn't really lose anyone, but they couldn't sign anybody. Think about it. Alexander Isak, the big Swede, the big name striker before Gyökeres. He is now, of course, a Newcastle United player, currently at least. At this present moment of the timing of the stream, he's still at Newcastle. I have no idea how he's still there. Not the point. he is a very talented player who wants to go to Liverpool, who have many strikers already. Could lead to a tactical switch, who knows? And they tried to replace him by signing Benjamin Sesko. Ben Sesko is miraculous. He's amazing. Sesko rejects them. They then try and sign Hugo Ekitike, who then goes to Liverpool. They tried signing other strikers, and they have failed. Their only attacking player they've brought in so far has been Anthony Elanga, and today they brought in Jacob Ramsey to help out in the midfield. They also brought in a player from AC Milan in Malik Tia, who played recently, who's going to help out the defense. They're a team that you have no idea how they're going to go out and play, but you trust Eddie Howe enough to where they won't be completely shambolic like how Manchester United or Tottenham were last year. But because of how many problems with players and how many things have gone wrong for Newcastle, they're going to be great at home. That's never a problem with Newcastle United. The problem is going to be their play on the road. That's always been a problem for Newcastle over the last couple of years. If you look back at the home and away stats, they're so different. It's unbelievable. I don't trust Newcastle enough right now to go out and be as competitive in the Premier League as they should be. They lost out on so many key strikers, from Sesko to Ekitike. I mean, who knows who they're going to fail on signing next? Newcastle are going to finish 11th and are going to be the most disappointing team in the Premier League in 2025. It is Newcastle United. Who else would it be? You could say one of the other top teams will be disappointing. You could claim that all you want. Arsenal could be the most disappointing team after they finish second. Hell, they may even finish third. But the fall off of a team that has the money, they have the financial backing. Remember, they're partially owned by the Saudi Arabia Investment Fund. Don't forget that. I don't know how, if you're Newcastle United, how this happens, that you fail to sign so many different players. That is unbelievable to me. And for that reason, they haven't done enough. They're going to be in a very competitive top half, because I think there's 13 teams that can finish in the top half this year. I can see Newcastle, Bournemouth, Fulham, all teams that can finish in the top 10 on this side of the screen. And Everton would have to get really lucky, but I just not convinced by this Newcastle team. They're going to defend well, but with how many internal problems they have with Isak and others, I don't know how they do it. This is going to be a very weird team, Newcastle. And they're the team I think have a big, big swing and miss this year. All right, let's meet the top half. Let us meet the top half teams. Or at least we will try to meet the top half teams. I don't know why this isn't working. And to start, we're going to go with the next team. And it's not working. For some reason, it is not working. Hold on one second. All right. I'll just read them off because... All right, so now y'all might have gotten leaked the table at this point. Let's go with the next two teams, because this one's apparently now it's working. The next team is Crystal Palace. Is who I have next. I have 10th place, Crystal Palace. After all the technical difficulties and all the things that could happen this season. This was the biggest surprise from last season. The surprise package. And the team that we have no idea of how they're going to look. This is going so well, Chad. I don't know how this happens, Lance. I don't know why people, whatever. Back to once again, when I go to school, this type of stuff won't be happening. But let's talk about Crystal Palace. They won the FA Cup back in June. They've gone on to win the FA Community Shield last week. And now are in a position to come out right out the gate and upset a big name Premier League club. Because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they open with Chelsea. And they were able to accomplish so far their biggest goal of the summer. Do not sell Eberechi Eze, who I thought for a long time was going to go to Arsenal before they signed Noni Madueke. And now he's still on Crystal Palace. There's a good chance he stays at Palace, so we know now Tottenham are interested in Eberechi Eze. This is a team with Mateta, Eze. I think a really good defense headlined by players like Mark Gahey and Chris Richards, though Gahey might be on the move. It's a team where you don't know what to expect week in and week out. But they were the feel-good story last year. They won the FA Cup. It's even weirder to say with Newcastle. I almost forgot to mention this. They're going to be the defending Carabao Cup champions. Newcastle. Palace, I have 10th. They have quality, but they're not going to have a better roster than any of the teams I have above them. They'll have a similar roster to the team that I have in 8th, but the thing I'm going to highlight for them is depth. They're playing in the Europa Conference League qualifiers, I believe, this week, which is going to be very intriguing after their whole dilemma with Nottingham Forest and whatever. They've only signed a pair of players in Walter Benitez from PSV and Borna Sosa from Ajax. They haven't lost a big name player, but I mean, they're going to need to make a move for depth, probably with a lot of loans, in order to really see themselves competitive in the Premier League and in the Europa Conference League. Because last year we saw Chelsea have like 65 players, and they're able to win the Conference League because of how much depth they have. You can go out and compete in Europe if you have depth. Palace don't have that right now. So if they don't have the depth to compete, then I don't see them doing either well in either the Prem or the Europa Conference League. So they're going to be a team that we're going to really have to watch out for in the coming weeks because of the lack of depth on their roster. That's what I'm saying with that. This team, next, always a darling of mine when we do these videos, and that is Brighton. Now, Brighton, they've done a lot, and it hasn't been big moves, but they've been making moves. What was the big one? They lost Evan Ferguson on loan, which is really unfortunate, but I still think they'll have enough quality in their team to begin with to go out there and still be effective. Brighton. Remember, they have the youngest head coach in the Premier League. Last season, they might have overperformed, but they had a lot of great players last year. The big loss for them is João Pedro, who went to Chelsea. The question is going to be, how do they respond without Pedro and Ferguson? And a team that Last year finished 8th. I have them finishing 8th. They have them finishing 9th now. I mean, last year they were able to score goals with João Pedro. They scored more goals than Chelsea. They were close to scoring more goals than Arsenal and Newcastle, teams with real attacking quality, with not a lot of talent, with not as many talented players or superstar type players as those other big teams. Brighton have done that for years, where they've gotten players from different leagues around the world. They sold them for big money, and they keep doing that over and over and over again. They haven't gotten I thought they were going to be one of those teams that signed players from the bigger names in the Club World Cup, from a player from like a Fluminense or Flamengo. If you want to get even crazier, Palmeiras, if it was a little bit cheaper. Players that shine from Mamelodi Sundowns in South Africa, because they had a good tournament. They competed with Borussia Dortmund in a match. I'm surprised that Brighton haven't done more, but I think they'll be comfortable enough to where they could shock a couple people and not be as bad as I think they could be, because they could still be pretty terrible. They could be bad, but I'm confident enough with how Brighton have been in recent years where they'll compete enough to not lose that much, and they'll just find a way in the end to go out and pick up a good result almost every week. Now, this is where it gets big. Who do I have just outside of Europe? Now, this is a very difficult spot to pick a team for, because I changed it right before the stream started today. The team that misses Europe, and they deserve to miss Europe. And that's the wrong stream. I will try it again. The team that is missing Europe, Nottingham Forest. The BS that has gone down with Nottingham Forest, or allegedly with Nottingham Forest's owner. The fact that Nottingham Forest will be in Europe, they're in the Europa. It's not Palace. It doesn't sit right with me. Whenever those two teams play, I would love to watch that game, because Jesus Christ, that match is going to be the definition of a miracle. It's going to be miraculous. But Nottingham Forest have lost not that much. Their biggest loss so far was Anthony Elanga, who went to Newcastle United. Alex Brown finished his loan spell. They signed Jair Cunha from Botafogo. They got a player from the Portuguese league from Rio Ave in Sheriff Yaya. They signed Igor Jesus from another player from Botafogo. It's not bad work. It's just you would expect more with being in Europe and having the quality, but they've been in the news for so many of the wrong reasons. I'm just not confident in them to outplay some of the teams that I expect to be in Europe this year. And for that reason, I have Nottingham Forest in 8th. They will be a good team. They can go out and be a major team, but they haven't done as much as I would have expected. And I'm a little disappointed in Nottingham. And for that reason, I have them finishing in 8th. They'll be competitive. They'll be a top half team in my eyes. Last year, I had them finishing 14th or something. That was one of the big teams I swung and missed on, was Nottingham Forest last year. But really sucked at the end of last season. And they haven't added enough Premier League quality, guaranteed Premier League quality to get them back into a guaranteed Europa League place. I'm not convinced by it. Now, European places. Who is going to Europe? Going, in my predictions, to the Conference League is Tottenham. I have Tottenham 7th. You could barely see the logo. I understand that. But I have Tottenham 7th. Now, you're probably asking yourselves, Robbie, why is Tottenham so high? Let's go over what they've done. They finalized a deal for Matisse Tell. They got one of my favorite players on loan in João Palhinha. They've signed the always dangerous Mohamed Kudus. And that's about it. But they've been in the mix for Eberechi Eze. Last year, no one really knew what happened to Spurs. No, I can't even tell you. That's the most beatable Tottenham team I've ever seen. But think about this. And this is why I have them higher up than I originally had them. They're a team that can compete, and they will compete for 90 minutes. The question for them is, can they finish off a big match? And we answered that question. The question was answered by Tottenham, but in the wrong direction. Last night in the Super Cup, Tottenham went 2-0 up on Paris Saint-Germain. It was 2-0 against PSG. In a game they weren't even expected to compete in. But conceding 2 goals after the 85th minute, or after the 80th minute, is unacceptable for a team like Tottenham and a system like how Thomas Frank plays. I like the moves they've done so far. I love Mohamed Kudus. I wish Arsenal signed him, honestly. Matisse Tell, in the right system, can be very dangerous if they play him a lot. And João Palhinha, I think, is the best loan move that has happened so far in the Premier League. I'm not sure if it's a permanent deal or not. So with all of that going on, I have Tottenham 7th. They're also competing in the Champions League. They could be good in that. But honestly, I have no idea. I have a feeling they're going to be not as good as people would expect. Not because I'm saying that as a fan of a team that doesn't like Tottenham. They need more. They need more. And I have a feeling they have something big hiding up their sleeve. Maybe it's an Eberechi Eze. Maybe it's, who knows. They need to do another move. I like the defense. I like Van de Ven and Romero. I like Pedro Porro. I like their other fullbacks on their team. Palhinha is going to hold down the midfield. They did just lose James Maddison for the year, which is really sad. I think they're going to need to get another midfield, and Eberechi Eze would be a really good fit, especially now with no James Maddison. Who's going to the Europa League? Drum roll, please. United. I have United finishing 6th, which is very high for them after where they finished last season. I love their attack, and it pisses me off. They acquired Mateus Cunha, who I'm not in love with, from Wolves. They signed Brian Mbeumo. Good. Very good signing of Brian Mbeumo from Brentford. I think that move is maybe overpaid a little bit, but good. They're making an effort, Manchester United. But they needed a home run move. A move that would change their entire freaking team. And the move that did it for them was Diego Leon. I'm kidding. It was not Diego. Sorry, Diego Leon. The move that did it for them was signing Benjamin Sesko from RB Leipzig. Wow. I'm actually surprised they did it. But I think for Sesko himself, this is the perfect team for him to be on. Pair him with Acuna. Pair him with an Mbeumo. And Benjamin Sesko could be the signing of the season. The type of player that I expected Rasmus Højlund to be 2 years ago. Højlund sucked. We understand that. And I know some people I've talked to might be a little hesitant on Sesko. He didn't play great last season. He could be a possible clone of Rasmus Højlund. But Sesko, the way he strikes the ball, he's really good in terms of movement. I like the way how physical he is, and his finishing quality is fantastic. The issue is, will they create enough chances to go out and find the goal? because Manchester United, while they were able to make chances last year, I don't think they scored more than 45 goals, which is genuinely incredible. Manchester United finished 15th and scored only 44 goals. 44. And they were able to sign not one, not two, but 3 attacking players to solve that problem. And I don't think they're done yet, because there's a certain Gianluigi Donnarumma that could be in the mix for some of these teams here in the Premier League. And one of them, I have a big feeling, is Manchester United. I really think they can do it. Right now, the player we know they're keen on is Carlos Baleba, who I think is a very intriguing player from Brighton. I would really suck if Brighton lose him. But like what Fabrizio Romano says, Brighton insists to keep Carlos, eventually selling talented player only next year. But United are trying to sell Sancho. They might be trying to loan out Antony again, and they're trying to sell Alejandro Garnacho to Chelsea. But Baleba wants to go to United, but I don't think Brighton want to sell him. I love what United have done so far. If they can get another player, they'll be safely in 6th. I'm convinced by that. They need goals. I don't want them to score against Arsenal. They play Arsenal week 1. I'm really annoyed I can't do that game on stream because I'm moving in that day. But yeah, it's a much, much improved Manchester United team. All right. Next up. And everything's failing again. Great. Next team up is not Manchester United. Oh, my God. I don't know what's going on. We've had so many technical problems today. It's the last stream before I leave. And this is what's happening. Oh, man. Okay, keep clicking the wrong button. Yeah, I'm an idiot, chat. Next team is Aston Villa. Now, Aston Villa are the team I have that will make it to the Champions League because of the Premier League's status, because of where we are ranked, where the league is ranked overall. They have loaned out a lot of people. They've had a lot of loans going on. They signed Keba Sesse from Lask, Evan Gasson, who I actually know who that is, from Nice. He's not terrible. He's pretty okay. And they signed Marco Bizot from Brest, along with Zeppekeno Redmond from Feyenoord. They're a team that hasn't changed a lot, but maybe they could have signed a big name player or two. But after losing Joan Duran, they were still really decent. They're a team that are at the top of the 2nd tier, is where I'll call them this year, because there's 4 clear teams that are ahead of Aston Villa, United, Tottenham. We all know who they are. At this rate, obviously, it's where do I have them? Now, last year I had Villa finishing 6th, and they finished in an okay position last year. They finished in 6th. Brilliant. They're one of the few teams I actually got right on the dot. Last year, by the way, I think I got like 6 teams right on the money, which is really good. And then like 6 or 7 teams 1 spot away, which not bad for how bad we sometimes predict on this channel. But he needs to do something. Morgan Rogers, Ollie Watkins are great. But when you add another attacking or midfielder type player, they just lost Jacob Ramsey. I think they're going to be keen on signing a midfielder in the next couple of weeks. But Aston Villa are good. They are the best of the rest. Aston Villa. As we approach the hour mark to this stream, And by the way, if you want to hit the subscribe button, go for it. You want to hit the like button, go for it. It is now time to figure out who is in the top 4. And we know who the 4 teams are. Arsenal, Chelsea, City, Liverpool. How did I rank them? In 4th, barely, Chelsea. It's Chelsea. I'm convinced it is Chelsea. Now, you're probably asking, Robbie, defending Club World Cup champions, they are good. They improved. How are they 4th? I am not convinced that for a full season that Chelsea's defense and goalkeeping is good enough to win them a Premier League or get them a top 3. Now, what moves do I like that Chelsea have made? Because it's a lot. Love Jamie Bino Gittins. I love a player like Liam Delap. I love Jarell Hato. Esteval. I'm not surprised they sold Ukachukwu, Dewsbury Hall, João Felix somehow. Petrovic, I'm a little surprised by. But they signed Mamadou Sarr. Like, they sold Kepa. They've done so many good things. And they even signed one of the best underrated strikers available. And a striker that is a baller to pair with Palmer, João Pedro. They're overhauling some key parts to their team. And I like that. They looked great in the Club World Cup, but they didn't have a tough road to the final. What happens to them when they have adversity? You know, they're playing the Champions League this year. How are they? I mean, they're going to be able to handle it well. They have like 80 players still. They're in a good spot. I think they're still 1 year away. And the reason I believe Chelsea are still 1 year away is because I'm not convinced by their goalkeeping. I don't know if Sanchez is the answer. They should be the team that is in the hunt for Gianluigi Donnarumma. Robert Sanchez was good in the Club World Cup final. I won't deny that. But will he be good for a full Premier League season? Good enough to where he's, I don't know, the best goalkeeper in the league? No. He's not a top 3 goalkeeper in the Premier League. He's behind, to me, Ederson. He's behind David Raya. He is behind a goalkeeper like Alisson. So how do you expect me to not be still worried about the goalkeeping of Chelsea? That is the reason I have them finishing 4th. If they improved at goalkeeper, I would have had them 3rd or 2nd. Because they would not win the Premier League still. Because of how overpowered I think the team in 1st is. But they're still going to be really good. And I think they will be a threat to win the Champions League this year. We'll talk more Champions League when the draw happens in early September. In the first week of September. But where they are right now, they are one piece away from being the main challenger for the team I have in 1st. Because they don't have that, I have them 4th. But I do not think Sanchez is the answer. I'm still not convinced that Sanchez is the answer. He's been good. He's been god-awful. You need consistency in goal if you want to win the Prem. That's why Arsenal still can't win it. They've had injuries, inconsistency. They don't win it. Team like City, they got consistent when they needed to. Chelsea, they were consistent in the Club World Cup, but can they do that over a full 9-month, 38-game season? Not convinced. I have Chelsea 4th. Next. In 3rd, a team that I think had a great transfer window, but lost one of their best players, And I am not convinced, chat, that they did enough to replace him. Ladies and gentlemen, Man City. I have Man City in third. It may feel criminal. And I understand that. I understand that it's really weird that nothing's still working on this stream. I don't know what's going on today. But when you look at where City are, there they go. There it is. Let's look at the moves they did. To review, they brought in Tiani Reinders. Good. They brought in Rayan Nuri. Excellent. For fullback. They brought in Rayan Cherki for wing help or coverage on the outside. Excellent. They signed James Trafford back from Burnley. Phenomenal work. They signed the youngster Xavier Naipan from the Norwegian, who Arsenal were going after, from Rosenborg. Great. He's actually going out on loan to Middlesbrough to actually play, which in England, which is fantastic. So you're asking, Robbie, why are you not optimistic? They have Holland. They have, one of the best midfielders in the world in Rodri. They have Ederson. What's the problem? They lost Kevin De Bruyne. I don't know. I guess they're convinced by Reinders being the creative replacement for Kevin De Bruyne. But when you lose a guy like that, he's irreplaceable, as Pep Guardiola would say. And I am not convinced that by this Man City team that they will win it again. Not this year. I love what they've done. Nuri, Cherki, Reinders, adding Trafford and Naipan back, great. Loaning out Naipan, even better. They also this Marcus Bettinelli guy, but I don't know who that is. But when you go out and you lose to Al Hilal, possibly damning the reputation of the Premier League in general, I don't know how you come back from that. They're going to be coming back hungry, I'll tell you that much. I like this City group. I am worried about this City group for how talented they are. And they open with a fun one against a Wolves team playing at the difficult Molineux Stadium. That will always be an issue, is playing at Molineux. And that could be a game where we see a surprise draw off the rip from City. But they're still so good. So talented. They have arguably the best striker in the world in Erling Haaland. How could you not count out this team? They will be in the mix. They will be hungry to win the Premier League title. This could lead to the best 4-team Premier League title race of all time. And that will be one of the competitors in this fatal 4-way. Will be Man City. But I'm not convinced about losing the creativity of Kevin De Bruyne, that they have what it takes to create enough chances and go out and win games. They got lucky in a couple of those wins they had a couple of those results they had last year. I will say that. And they're going to need maybe a sprinkle of luck to, not get fourth. Because that Chelsea team, oh boy, they're dangerous. Now, we meet with these two, Arsenal and Liverpool. Arsenal added Victor Gyökeres. They added Noni Madueke, which has divided a lot of people because we don't know how good he actually is. They signed Kepa. They signed Christian Mosquera. Mosquera will be a depth center back. They signed Christian Norgard from Brentford. And I'm in love with the signing of Martin Zubamendi from Real Sociedad to anchor the midfield. A midfield of Odegaard, Zubimendi, and Declan Rice, along with a front three now of Gyökeres, Saka, and whoever you throw out on the left. Liverpool, on the other hand, have responded. They lost Trent Alexander-Arnold, which is terrible, but they replaced him with Jeremy Frimpong. They replaced him with Milos Kerkez. They added Florian Wirtz to play with whoever they want to put in that midfield. Maybe it's Gravenberch and McAllister, or whoever you want to put there, because I'm forgetting a midfielder. They added one of the best strikers on the market in Hugo Ekitike, while losing Luis Diaz and Darwin Nunez. They've gained, they've lost, and they're still miraculous. They've also lost Kelleher to Brentford for some reason. But he was replaced by Georgi Mamardiashvili, the Georgian goalkeeper. The team that I have winning the Premier League in 2025-26, after all of the moves, after all of the hype, Liverpool. I have Liverpool winning the Premier League. They've done more. They've added the better pieces. There is not a question about this Liverpool team anymore, and they're not done yet. Arsenal seems finished with the moves. People aren't convinced about what Arteta can do. I think Liverpool are the most likely team to win the title. I'm convinced that they will win the double with a cup and the Prem. However, Arsenal, I think, we've seen multiple people love Arsenal to win a trophy this year. And I'm on the path of believing that. But I'm not convinced that they are, a favorite to win a trophy. They've added the right players. They've added a lot of great players. And I'm in love with the signings that we've had. And I like the way Arsenal played in the back end of preseason. All of it's going to come down to the start they get against Manchester United at Old Trafford. And I'm not convinced that Arsenal solved all of the problems they needed to solve before playing week 1. A lot of fans were confused about what to do, or perplexed on what will go on the left wing. Who will play off the left? I know people are hesitant on Gabby Martinelli, and I like Gabby Martinelli a lot. The options were Eberechi Eze from Palace, Noni Madueke, who Chelsea wanted to sell, or somebody else. Arsenal went with the middle option of Noni Madueke, signing another Chelsea player. I am not convinced that that is the answer to the attack that Arsenal needed. Arsenal added to the attack. Good. But did they add the right players? All of the right players. I think they did the correct add of Zubimendi. I think they did the correct add of Victor Gyökeres. But the answers on the left wing were not solved. Because Liverpool had no questions that needed to be answered, other than can they do it again, I think Liverpool are a more all-around team. I love Hugo Ekitike, even if they lost Darwin Nunez. Darwin Nunez was inconsistent. Hugo Ekitike solves that problem. Alexander Isak, if he signs there, would solve that problem. This is a Liverpool team that seem unstoppable. They're not the ones that have the questions that Arsenal have right now. And because of the duality of their situations, I am more convinced that Liverpool will do it again. Arsenal will finish second. Arteta will get sacked and will go to another big club. And then the team he will lead then will win league titles. This is a very make or break year for Arsenal. But because of the moves that Liverpool have done, I have them winning the title. Real quick to wrap up the stream. Today we're going to name our signings and flops of the season. And we're going to start with our flop of the season. GG's to this player. Last year, we did nail the flop of the season of Kieran and Dewsbury Hall. Dylan, I don't remember who Dylan put. But my flop of the season, he's actually on a team that I project to be really good, and that is Matthias Cunha. Now, I don't think Matthias Cunha will be terrible. Rasmus Højlund-esque. They're going to expect him to do a lot. I don't know if he's in a system that can do it. That's what I mean by flop of the season going to Matthias Cunha. He's really good. I like him playing striker. And Buemo, Sesko, Cunha. Great trio. The question will be, will Cunha find enough form while being in the mix of those three players in the formation that United play? Because they play a 3-5-2. Will he find enough consistency? Or will they try and bring him or Buemo down to another position? And that might retract some of the value that Cunha has. Because I know Cunha more as an attacking player rather than a midfielder. It's an interesting question. I think Matthias Cunha is my flop of the season because he has a lot of high expectations. I don't know if he can get to those expectations. That is my reason for that. Signing of the season, I have Hugo Ekitike from Liverpool. It's going to be one of the strikers of Isak if he signs there, or Hugo Ekitike. And because Ekitike has actually signed already, I'm going to go with Hugo Ekitike. He's playing in a system that has Mo Salah. He's going to have Florian Wirtz with him. They have a lot of creativity, and they have a lot of players that can get balls to Hugo Ekitike. Last year, Liverpool won the league with Darwin Núñez as striker. Arsenal competed in the Premier League to the end with a 6 at the striker. Hugo Ekitike solves this, I believe, will solve the striker problem, and he will be the signing of the season for a Liverpool team that is going to be one of the most dangerous Premier League teams of the 2020s. Every team that has won has been dangerous. But I don't know a team that could have two of the best strikers in the world on the same team. I don't know how they incorporate them all. That's the real question. But they'll be very, very exciting. I think I'm really backing Hugo Ekitike. I love the signing from the get-go. I hated that he went to Liverpool. But he's so good. I'm really backing him. Shout out to the person who another player I would have put for that would have been João Pedro. I love João Pedro. He looked really good in the Club World Cup. I think he's a player that really fits Enzo Maresca's system. I like him as well as a signing of the season, with the flop possibly being Liam Delap, because will he play as much as João Pedro? I don't know. Underrated move of the season, I'm going with João Palhinha to Tottenham. I love João Palhinha. He's really, really talented. Playing in the midfield, I think he's one of those guys that went to a big club, but I don't know if he was ready. Remember, a few years ago, he was at Fulham, and he was a staple of the midfield at Fulham. He eventually goes to Bayern, and now he's going back to the Premier League, a league that he was really good in, to play for Spurs. A team that has a midfield that is a little bit in flux, losing James Maddison. They find a player that can hold down the midfield in João Palhinha. He's going to control it inside and out, and I think that's a phenomenal move, and a move that's gone really under the radar that not enough people are talking about, and that was the João Palhinha to Tottenham. That's it. That is my Premier League predictions. After an hour and 15 minutes of talking, the final table is ready. You will also be able to see it on my Instagram. The handle is down in the description. You guys can see it all. Here is the Premier League. My predictions for the Premier League: Leeds, Burnley, Sunderland relegated. Wolves 17th. Brentford 16th. West Ham 15th. Everton 14th. Fulham 13th. Bournemouth 12th. Newcastle 11th. Crystal Palace 10th. Brighton 9th. Nottingham Forest 8th. Just missing out on Europe. Then you have Tottenham going to the Conference League. United in Europa League. And then the 5 Champions League teams based on coefficient are Villa, Chelsea, Man City in 3rd, then Arsenal in 2nd, again for the 4th year in a row. And my champions are Liverpool, back-to-back for the Reds. That is it from the setup of the Robbie Basel Show. I'm Robbie Basel. Thank you so much for watching. The Premier League kicks off tomorrow. We'll actually pick the opening match, because why not? The open match is Liverpool against Bournemouth, 3 p.m. I have Liverpool winning that game 2-0 against Bournemouth. It's going to be a little bit of an emotional one, especially with the stuff that happened with Diogo Jota. It'll be a very emotional atmosphere at Anfield, and I can't wait for the Premier League to be back. Enjoy week 1. Tune in next week or follow my Instagram for updates for streams next week throughout the week with Premier League action. Don't worry, this week, unfortunately, because of my move back to school, there'll be no game streams, but you'll get more of a definitive schedule starting next weekend. I'm Robbie Basel saying so long, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in if you're watching live or if you're watching after the stream ended. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye, everyone.